So that's pretty much it for this video. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. I could probably put back on this mask, maybe not because it's hard to hear. But again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time. See ya! And so that was Change of Heart and Rewind. Two wonderful, wonderful, wonderful games. I just love what Chris Ray is doing. There's a reason why we cover him so much on the channel. I think Rewind is cool and has really wonderful two-hand, two-round ideas there. We talked about it before where like if there's just one round, you got to give players a ton of agency. And 2 rounds, though, feels like a little bit more modern idea of like giving them more leniency if the card draw, or if it's, you know, a little bit of the randomness in there, but also not too long, that snappy feeling that I think modern trick-taking games do have. Also, I love the premise. Playing forward and back, so simple, so clever, and done so well. And again, next week we'll be talking about Tricks in My Mind, the expansion, so we'll cover that. And then yeah, Change of Heart. Like I said, a lot of interesting stuff in this package. It's always fun to have games, kind of a compendium of sorts, in a box, and see which ones you like. I think if I had to rank them, I think at the bottom is Change of Heart. No, I think at the bottom is probably Look Ma No Hands, just because, like I said, a lot of AP, really interesting idea. It's one of those games that I am beyond glad I played once, but not sure if I would play again, just because it's good amount of setup and all that, like I said. But the other one is Change of Heart. Like I said, just a cool idea, but very minimal. Then I would say Tin Man, really fun, really cool. And then, oh, Go Shoot the Moon is like amazing, 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 amazing. Obviously gets the seal. Absolutely wonderful. So yeah, definitely check this out. I don't know how Chris is going to get those out later, but hopefully they get picked up, maybe. But again, you can possibly make this with 2 decks of cards, which is really helpful. So let's talk about now Change of Heart. So Change of Heart is super fascinating. I love the fact that there's 4 games in one. There's something to the cards themselves that are really nice. I think the artist that Chris works with a ton, Megan Russell, does a wonderful job, especially like on the cover. There's a fun kind of vibe to the game. I love the 2 different suit backs. It's not only a clever concept, and it leads to, obviously, a lot of cool design decisions, but it looks great. I think my only thing is I do wish the fronts would have something to symbolize that the back is the same, because I would sometimes like look just because I would forget, you know, and it'd be nice to have it easily parsed. And then also sometimes, I know the ace is the highest, but maybe I'm missing something. I don't know why they're quite the highest there. And then also just because the queens have like 5 points, it'd be nice to have like something on there to remind players that, oh, queens have 5s. But I think there's the affordance of the deck to be able to play just classic hearts if you want to. That's probably why it isn't there. But in that case, just get a deck of cards, because this already is like a nice custom production. But overall, yes, really great custom production. I think these cubes even are really, really nice, really chunky. But to the games specifically. So let's go from maybe the one I liked the least, and then we'll jump up. So Look Ma No Hands. Super interesting concept. No luck trick-taking games where you draft your cards in kind of a trick-taking way, and then you play an open information, perfect information rather, game of hearts. Super, super fascinating. And from like a bird's eye view, what an experience, what an experiment even, that had me fascinated the entire time. And just thinking about everything it's doing in so many ways. So many cool things. It has that kind of cat-in-the-box-ish moment where you can kind of step out and say, I don't have this card, and then hopefully you don't get messed over later. Some really, really cool things. The reason it's a little, or reasons, it's a little low for me, a lot of AP, a lot of analysis paralysis, because you can play anything. So there's tons of implications. And also, I like card counting. In fact, Hearts is the game that I usually card count the most, because you got to pay attention to, you know, the ace, king, and queen of spades. That's really important. And then other just high cards, right? But I think when it's a perfect information game and open info and trackable and all that, I have this just like feeling where I'm like, I should be tracking more than I am, and it's slightly stressful. So lovely concept, but I think personally I am not the biggest fan of just like full open information. That comes out with like Vashtikt, where Vashtikt is cool, but man, there's a lot to track. And it's a lot of information that's I'm not going to retain in this little brain here. But really cool idea, lovely concept. It was so cool how it all works together. Chris did such a great job on it. If that is your jam, whew, this is your jam. But yeah, for me, I think the setup also is a lot. So a mix of setup, a mix of kind of some gameplay things that I don't personally love, puts that at the bottom. But so glad I did play it. Such an interesting experience. And the whole time I was having a great time, but at the end I was like, whew, that was quite the process. Don't know if I'll do it again, but very interesting. Next is Change of Heart, probably. So that one is, again, cool concepts where they split the queens, so the Queen of Spades isn't the most points, is kind of doled out over all the queens. I like that concept a lot. I like the set collection of the jacks, that's fun. Kind of like the dumplings in Sushi Go. That's a cool little twist. And I think they are nice, slight improvements on hearts. When you really want the game to just be like a little twist on hearts, I think it's nice when you don't go too far. Or if you have one variation, which is what this is, that doesn't go too far, and then you allow yourself to go too far in other variations like Tin Man or Go Shoot the Moon or things like that. So it's great. It is very like simple. We did like a Hearts month a couple Februaries ago, maybe 2 years ago, and that was so much fun to go through and find out my favorite variants. And we talked about how the jack that takes away your points in certain variations of hearts is one of the best. I think it's super, super interesting. It's always fun to have trick capture in a pure trick avoidance game. I think that's why hearts is so great, is because you do have to, or you do have that option of shooting the moon and kind of turning everything on its head. I think it's the perfect example of a game, especially with that game design decision, of being like, let's make players usually want to go one way, but that small chance of going the other way might be more valuable. You see that in a ton of modern designs, and I think it's just so much fun. Next up would be Tin Man. First off, the best theme. Oh man, that's so funny and so smart to make it be the Tin Man who wants a heart. So, I just rhymed there. So clever on Chris's part. Just rhymed again. Very interesting game. It felt like a mix of Hearts and Robotrick, or Robot Rick, which we've covered in the past, and mix a little bit with, we haven't covered it yet, but there's this older game which actually got like a nice reprint by, what game, like a Japanese publisher, but it's a Jürgen Kraut game, all Falscher Farte. In this one, you don't know if it's a trick taking or trick avoidance until kind of partway through the hand. Really good stuff. We'll talk about that in a bit. But that is what it felt like in this one. You don't know if you want the hearts or not, but you can play off of that open hand that is kind of dictating it. But are people going for that? Are they not? So really interesting things. I love the kind of system there. It's always fun to see how AI trick-taking works. I've played a lot of solo trick-taking games. We had like a solo month. And it's cool to see what designers come up with to make it still work and make it still function really well. And this one just does. It's so fun. I think there's a reason why Robot Rick is such a great game. It's received so well lately. And I think it's coming out. I think it got picked up by a German company, or a company in Europe for a Europe release. It's a great game. And it's really cool to see it in Hearts and then also have that twist. So this is really good. I want to play it more. I just haven't played it too much. This was a tough to review just because there was so much in this box, right? It's so awesome how Chris reuses the deck. He does that so well, like in February, how there's new February rules every February, or letter tricks, how there's co-op and competitive, and there's even new letter tricks rules. I think what's great is Chris, almost like with every game, will have like a kind of like a system. Like this has Tricks in My Mind and Rewind, where there's multiple ways to play with the setup. And so what was fun for this review, even though it was a lot. I was like, this is like reviewing 5 games, right? Because there's just so much. So I haven't played Tin Man enough. I think it will grow and grow and grow on me, just because I love that open information, whether it's going to be trick taking or trick avoidance, and the whole kind of open player playing and playing off that player. So there's a ton of cool things in it. Not too many things I would dock it, besides I think some of the I think the rules on how to handle the AI were a little bit confusing. And then also I think in the play, it's a little bit confusing, like with the change of heart card going to the last leader and then they play. I think there could have been a little bit of a simpler system of the Tin Man. So I think that's maybe why it just gets a little bit under getting maybe like the seal for me, just because the AI itself is maybe a little clunky, or maybe I just don't understand it too well. But overall, really great concept, really, really, really fun. And last but not least, Go Shoot the Moon. Go Shoot the Moon is so good. And again, grain of salt, but I love this game. I love Hearts. This whole channel has been a journey into trick-taking, and I started with Hearts. It's my first trick-taking game, and it's just so amazing. I'll go back to it in like a tournament setting. I'll go back to it online. It is just so good. Hearts is just so, so, so good. And what is one of the best parts, maybe the best part of Hearts? It's shooting the moon. It is a phrase that is used so often on this channel. It's a phrase that is used in reference to in so many trick-taking games. It has influenced so many trick-taking designs, I swear. And to focus 100% on that is amazing, and it's done so, so well. So side tangent, Jonathan Cox from John Gets Games told me about a tahW variant that him and his friends would do called Chaos tahW. I mentioned this before on the tahW video, but the premise is every single hand, one person on each team has to call grand. If you're not familiar with tahW, it's like a giant bet that you think you're going to go out first. It's a climbing shutting game where you want to get rid of your cards. And you call grand when you only see half your hand, pretty much. And it makes the game go super quick, because players are getting points, you know, left and right. But it's also really risky and really crazy, and it just, it cranks up that aspect of tahW, that like wildness, to 11. And that's what Go Shoot the Moon does. It takes that wild, wild, wild moment of Hearts and it says, someone's going to do it. Someone's going to do it. And it puts it in this fascinating system that works so, so, so well. Why does it work so well? Well, you're always betting on which, or you're betting on the pile that has the most face cards, which is already amazing use of this system of seeing the face cards on the back. Then you always give the players the reins to choose whether they take it or not. And I've played with some greedy players, and I've played with players that take it right away. I've played with players that it kind of goes around the table, but I don't think I've seen anything over 6, or 6 bidding. So like when someone passes on taking the role of shooting the moon. I've never seen it go past 6. That's almost like maybe 1.5 around the table. In some perspective, I talked to Chris about it, and he told me like on average, players would usually get to 6 or higher. And so it kind of just speaks to the people I play it with that push their luck a lot. But you get that wonderful tension and almost hubris when someone takes it too early or doesn't pass on it, and they take it and they don't do too well because they could have just passed. But maybe the next person with that one extra exchange would have done too well. You know, you get that like perfect balance. And what's so fascinating is the players don't want the person shooting the moon to shoot the moon, but they don't want the points as well, because it's that classic perfect Hearts thing where who's going to fall on their sword, right? If you're playing actual Hearts and someone's going to shoot the moon, you're like, oh, okay, I'll take a heart. I'll take something, or I'll take a few hearts, or maybe I'll even take the queen just to stop this person from shooting the moon. And so it's like, who is that going to be? Because the fascinating thing about the betting and how it's so well intertwined, oh, I just love this game, is the number of times you pass is how many card exchange you have. And so that helps you avoid more because you're getting rid of the guaranteed highest card in your hand, and you're probably going to get it really low and back because it's in both your best interests. Or the person passing you back a card's best interest, the person shooting the moon. And so what's fascinating is if the more you pass, the more you're actually almost guaranteed to get 0. So you're kind of incentivized to pass. But you don't want that person to shoot the moon and you to get 10 points. Oh, it's so fascinating. The passing system's so good. Oh, and I love it when like one hand is 6, another hand's 6, another hand's like 5, and the other hand's like, 4 or whatever the number is. And it's like super balanced, and so then it like really goes around, and then you get those one hands where it's like the card or the hand that has the most high cards has like 9, maybe even 10. And players are like, oh, am I even gonna pass on this at all? It's so good. Oh, we had a wonderful game where someone took it right away, and then it was just like really low cards in there because it's 10 through ace, right? So even though you see a lot of these shiny card backs peeking through the sea of blue, they could just be low still. It's so good. I play a lot of games for the channel. I do. And sometimes I don't want to go back to them, even though they're good games, they're fine games. Sometimes I do want to go back to them, and that's usually when I give like a pretty good review. This one, we're just playing this right now. Oh, it's so fun. It's so fun. Chris did such a great job. So that is Change of Heart. I think Tin Man's close to getting the seal, but oh, Go Shoot the Moon definitely gets the seal. Oh, it's just so wonderful. And now, let's start by talking about Rewind. So yeah, we'll talk about Tricks of My Mind later, but Rewind is very, very, very interesting. Really cool idea. Love that Chris is doing a lot of 2-hand, 2-round trick-taking games. It's such a cool premise. And speaking of, this is also such a cool premise. The fact that you go forward and back and trying to hit that specific range. So super cool. It's fun for players to like seed it in an interesting way and then try to come back and pull it off. That's always really fun. The scoring's clean. I think the strategy is nicely opaque. I don't know whether just to go like really low and then always try to slough forever, or maybe go high and low, and because it's nice to be on extremes, kind of. It seems like it's tough to be in the middle, I found. But I have heard some people say like the first hand is kind of like set up for the second hand. I actually did talk to Chris about this, where he was like, oh, I even played where it was just the second hand, like this was randomly put out and the players had to go backward, so it was like a one-hand game. And he's like, players just so much worse, because since you keep your hand, this kind of first hand as like a setup, some people call it, is actually a good way to naturally determine the strength or even what players want. Because like a really high card could be played offsuit if that's what you want, if you want like a weaker position on the board. So I don't find that the first round is set up. I definitely obviously think the second round is more interesting. That's where kind of the tension is. But it's nice to have that kind of like little bit of a rising build and then that nice sweet tension. I will say that just makes it so, kind of like in February, the second hand is more interesting than the first, which isn't bad. But there's a lot of interesting stuff to it. I would say that Rewind itself has a little bit of nuance that I think is lost on me, so I want to play it more. But it's definitely interesting. I like it. I think there's some cool moments to it. It's fun when players pull it off. I've seen someone get super close to wiping the whole board, but not fully. So I'm hoping to keep playing just to get that like perfect game. But a really cool premise, done really, really well. I think Chris does such a good job of interesting, new, fresh ideas and executed so well. So that is Rewind. And again, I'm going to be covering Tricks of My Mind next week. Hopefully next week. Fingers crossed next week. So that is rewind and change of heart. Before we talk about rewind first, I do want to say huge grain of salt. Chris is a pal. We ran Dice Tower West together, and we now do the BGG Guild and such. I'm doing the Golden Trickster Award, and also he sent me these games. So 3 giant grains of salt tossed on there, and he is actually, I might have said it at the intro, he's in the 10 Timers Club now, officially, which is second only to Taiki Shinzawa. So, covered a lot, chat with him a lot, take everything I say with a grain of salt. But without further ado, that's funny. Without further ado, let's go into review. In Change of Heart, there's actually 4 games, and the deck in 3 of them is a standard deck, so it's 4 suits, and it's 2 through ace, so ace is high. Some important things though, as you can see back here, the 10 up to the ace have a different back than the 2 up to the 9. Also, the last game will have 0s and 1s of those 4 suits. So the last game will have 60 cards, whereas 3 of the 4 games will have 52. The last game we're going to cover is the Tin Man, and in this one you're going to include those 0s and 1s in the deck, so now the deck's going to go from 0 all the way to ace in the 4 suits. To set up Tin Man, you're going to shuffle the 60 cards, make 5 equal stacks. You're going to splay them out so players can see how many high cards are in each stack, and then the one with the most is going to go to the Tin Man. If there's a tie, you can just pick randomly, so it's probably this one, which has 8 or 9, yeah. So this one is going to go to the Tin Man, and then Left of Dealer is going to just draft their stack in the first round. So if it's Team Rocket here, maybe they pick this one, Frog picks this one, Claude picks this one, and the Blue Heart gets the last one. In subsequent rounds, because you are going to play 4 rounds, it's the person who's losing is going to draft first after the Tin Man gets the highest, and if there's a tie, it just goes Left of Dealer again. Before passing, you're actually going to splay up the Tin Man's hand face up so players can look at that for some information. The premise of this game is there's a Tin Man character who wants a heart, similar to Wizard of Oz, and if they get as many hearts or more of one of the other players who gets the most, then hearts are good. You want hearts. The Tin Man has a heart, everyone's happy, you want hearts. But if the Tin Man doesn't get enough hearts as the other player, the other real player, who did get the most hearts, then hearts are bad. So it becomes maybe trick-taking, maybe trick avoidance, and it all depends on whether the Tin Man gets a heart or not. The Left of the Dealer is going to lead to the first trick, and it's must follow, and if you can't follow, you can play any card, and there's no trump in this game, so it's just high, so the lead suit is going to win. So maybe Frog character plays that. Claude is going to play the 5. The Heart is going to play maybe the 8 here. And then finally, when it comes to the Tin Man, if the Tin Man did not lead the trick, it will play last into the current trick. So that kind of just worked out in this situation. It will play the lowest card it can to win the trick. So in this case, it needs to play anything above a 9. And looking at this, it only has that king here. So it's going to play the king, and it's going to take the trick. Whenever the Tin Man does win a trick, you're going to see if they got any point cards. Again, those are queens and hearts. And you're going to put them face up next to the players, so it's easy to track whether or how many points the Tin Man does have. And when the Tin Man wins, you're going to give the previous leading player the Change of Heart card. If the Tin Man is going to lead the trick, they're just going to play their leftmost card no matter what it is. So they just played the clubs here. And then it says that the Change of Heart card player will play second into the trick. Again, this has just happened to work out really nicely that Jesse is second, but if it was the Frog here in a different trick, they would then play second, and then it would go clockwise from them. So then it would be Claude, and then the Heart, and then Jesse in that one example. And if a player who's normal, a non-Tin Man player wins, they'll just take the trick as normal and then lead to the next trick. Jumping ahead to the end of scoring here. So the Tin Man, they got 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, whereas the player with the most over here got 14. So actually hearts are bad in this case. So then the Frog down here got 6 minus points, Claude got 3 minus points, and then up here Jesse got minus 14. But if things had looked a little bit different, maybe this went over here, so now that's 12 to 13. Now points are good. So Jesse actually got 12 good points, Frog got 6 good points, and Claude got 3 good points. Ties do count, so if Jesse looked like that and they both had 13, it would also be good. To look at the score for the round, the game actually uses match scoring, so this doesn't carry over into the next rounds. If this was the situation where Jesse did the best, she would get 4 match points, then Frog would get 3, then 2 for Claude, and then 1 for the heart. And then you just play 4 total rounds. You would pay attention to that match scoring, and then whoever got the most points at the end of that wins. Ties are shared, and that's how to play the Tin Man. And that's how to play the Tin Man. Here's a setup for a change of heart. You're going to shuffle the cards into 4 stacks equally. Players can see the backs of the cards, which is what is the important part for the drafting. To the left of the dealer in the first round, they're going to draft a set of cards. Maybe Claude here takes this one, Heart takes that one, and then those go to the other 2 players. Then it's going to be pretty much traditional hearts. So the 2 of clubs is going to lead them off. I wish that had the 2 of clubs. And then the rules are mostly the same. Every heart is worth -1 point. All the queens, though, are -5. So the queen of spades isn't -13. All of them are -5. And then the jacks also do something special. So each jack is worth 1 point per jack you have. So if you have no jacks, that's 0 points. And then getting 1 jack is worth 1 point. Having 2 jacks is worth 4 total points, because this counts for 1 point for every jack you have, so that's 2, and then this is also 2, so that's 2, 4, and then 3 would be 9, and then 4 would be 16, so it kind of grows as you get it. You only play 3 rounds, however. You don't play to a threshold. In the first round, you can pass left. Second round, pass across. Last round, you pass right. And the other final change is if anyone shoots the moon, that is it. The game ends immediately and that person wins no matter what. And shooting the moon in this game is getting all the queens and all the hearts. And that's mainly the twist. There's rules to be able to play the traditional game of hearts, but with this deck, which you can see the card backs, which adds another fun little twist. But that's essentially how to play Change of Heart. The next game is called Look Ma, No Hands, and this is definitely pushing the boundaries of my table. How it works is it is a no luck trick-taking game. So you're going to splay out the entire deck to up to ace of all the 4 suits, and you're going to have the Change of Heart card over there, and then players are going to be up here for demonstration purposes. How the tricks work is the player to the left of the dealer is going to pick any card they want. So maybe it is that heart player. They're going to pick this 7 of diamonds, and so then that is kind of starting into the trick. The next player will then choose a card, and they can pick any card, but they do kind of have to follow suit. So if they don't pick from the diamonds here, they'd say they are out of diamonds, which is tough at the start, and we'll explain why. This is maybe familiar to Cat in the Box, where you can say you're out of a suit, but for now, maybe Claude is just going to pick the 8. And then coming to the frog, maybe they're going to pick the jack, and then Jessie over here, since she sees that there's no points in this trick, maybe picks the ace. The highest of the lead suit would win, unless there's a possible trump, which I'll explain in a little bit. So the winner of the trick is going to get 2 points, and you can track that some other way. I don't have a way to on this table right now. And then the card that players take is actually going to go into their hand for the next round. So players are going to take that hand, maybe flip it to the side, and then the winner of the trick is going to lead into the next trick. So again, maybe Jessie picks diamonds, and I'll clear these off because those are cards for the next round. And so then it goes to the heart player, and maybe they pick a 9. And so Claude, maybe they don't want to play diamonds anymore, will say, I am out of diamonds. And they're going to take their cube here and put it over here, denoting that they are out of diamonds. Now for the rest of the hand, Claude does not want to play a diamond because it's a really bad penalty if they do. So then they are going to play whatever card they want, and maybe they play this jack of spades. And then coming to the frog here, maybe they say they do have a diamond, and they're going to play this queen. If a player didn't follow the lead suit, then there may be trump. So any card not following the lead suit is a trump card if it's at least the same rank as the card led. Ties do not count. So in this case, Jessie led the 10 and the jack is above it. So that actually is a trump suit, and Claude would win this trick, get 2 points. And again, players are going to take the cards that they play and put them into their hand for the second round. Jumping a little bit later, let's say it was led 6 of diamonds by the frog here. Comes to Jessie, she played the king, and now maybe the blue heart wants to say they're also out of diamonds, and so they don't play any of the diamonds anymore, and they are going to play maybe this 8 of hearts. And then if Claude comes over here and plays the 8 of clubs, now since they are both higher than the lead suit, they're both trump, and if there's a tie, like in this case, the latter played card chooses who wins. So Claude could say, oh, I win, because they played the same tied trump and they played it later. Play like this is going to continue until all the players take all the cards, and then once they do, we'll go into the second round. But first, I should explain if there ever is a paradox of sorts that happens up here. So say all these cards were taken and these were the only cards left. It would be bad for both the heart and the clod because they said they didn't have diamonds. And when that happens, the players who trigger that don't have any other choice than to take a diamond. They would just take it. They can't win the trick at all in any way. Like if it was led this and they had to take, you know, the 4 or the 5, one of these players up here, and they can't win it, they would just add it to their card, and then they lose 3 points, which is a huge deal in the scoring. Here we are in the second round. The second round is essentially just hearts. So the player with the 2 of clubs is going to lead. Hearts are bad. Every heart is -1 point. And the queens, though, all the queens are -5 points. And the queen of spades is just -5 points. It's not -13. Hearts can't be led unless they're broken. Traditional hearts. So it becomes just an avoidance hearts game again, except if you have been tracking and paying attention, you can technically know every card in everyone's hand. And then you are going to, at the end of that round, minus any points you get from any hearts, plus any positive points you got from taking tricks in the first round, and then whoever has the most points at the end wins. There is no shoot the moon in this, but there is a variant where you could add shoot the moon, where if a player captures all the queens and the hearts, they instantly win the game. This is only intended for advanced play, even though if you are playing this, you are probably advanced. And that's how to play Look Ma, No Hands. Before we go into teaching the 4 different games, I'm going to assume you know how to play hearts. Go check out a hearts video. We covered hearts on February, maybe a few years back, but also it is one of the more classic trick-taking games, so definitely check it out. It has amazing online implementations, and it's one of the best trick-taking games out there, so definitely check it out, and I am going to assume you have familiarity with the game. This is going to be the first of the 4 games we're going to teach. It's called Go Shoot the Moon. It's a tribute to the best part of hearts, shooting the moon. Here we have it set up for the 4 players, so each player is going to get 4 cubes, and then you're actually going to shuffle the deck and put them in equal stacks right here, splayed out, so you can see which cards are high and which cards are low. If you remember, the 10 through ace, so the high cards, and all 4 suits have a different back than the 2 through 9 in those suits. So players, starting with the left of the dealer, let's say it's Claude over here, they are going to be either taking the stack that has the most high cards in it, or they're going to be passing on that take, and then it's going to go to the next player. So players are going to find out which stack has the most. I think it's this middle one here. It has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and the only other closest ones that one is 3, 4, and 5. So it's definitely this 8 one here. So starting with Claude, they can either take it, which means they won't play any of these cubes, or they can pass on it. Let's say they pass on it. So they're going to put one of those cubes forward here. Then it's going to go clockwise to the next player. Maybe this player doesn't want it, they'll pass. Maybe Jesse also doesn't want it, they'll pass. The frog will pass. Comes back to Claude. Maybe Claude will pass one more time, and then this blue heart player is just going to take it. So they will take this whole stack, and this will be their hand for the round. And they are going to be the player who's trying to shoot the moon this round. After the shoot the moon player takes a stack, then just clockwise players are just going to take a stack, and it usually makes sense to just take the most valuable stack unless you really want to slough. So Jesse will take the one that had 5, and then the frog will take the one that has 4, and then Claude will take the one that has 3. Before trick taking happens, players are going to be giving cards to the shoot the moon player depending on the number of times they passed. So Claude over here, for example, they passed twice, so they're going to have to give 2 cards to the shoot the moon player. And the forced restriction of passing cards, they have to pass their highest cards. If it's a tie, they can choose. But as you can see here, they only have 3 cards, so they're going to have to pass this ace and this king over to the shoot the moon player, and that shoot the moon player can pass them any card they want back. So maybe they're trying to short suit themselves and they just give them low 2s in the suit. That happened for the other players too. So coming over to the frog, they have to pass 1 of their high ranking cards, and it's a queen tie, so they can choose. Maybe they want to be short-suited in clover, so they're going to put that over there. They're going to get one back, and the same process happens for Jesse up here. Now that the passing's done, the person who is going to try to shoot the moon is going to lead into the first trick, and it's pretty normal hearts after that, so it's must follow. So maybe they play the ace of clubs. Jesse would have to follow suit with a club here, and the goal is players just want to take as many face cards and points as possible. I should say, because I haven't covered this yet, but the hearts are all a point, and the queens are actually all 5 points each into the trick. Classic hearts rules, you can't lead hearts unless it's been broken. The queens are fine. Those are not hearts, they are points, but they're not hearts. They are okay to go into a trick. Like in this example here, if someone had the queen of clubs, they could have given it to the heart player, but again, they don't really want to. So then the heart player will just take the trick, and then they'll play out the rest of the tricks, and then we'll jump ahead to scoring. Here we are at the end of the hand, and how the scoring works is it differs between the non-shoot the moon players, the regular players, and the shoot the moon players. For the regular players, it's similar to hearts. You'll just get a point per heart, and they don't want points. Points are bad. You want as low a score as possible. So Jesse over here got 3 points, and down here at the frog, the queens are worth 5 each. So it's not like in hearts where the queen of spades is worth 13. The queens are kind of spread out equally, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. And so the frog down here got 5 points. So 3 to Jesse and 5 to the frog, 0 over here to Claude. And then how the scoring works for the shoot the moon player. If they shot the moon, they get 0 points, and all the other players get 10 points each. But if they did not shoot the moon, they're going to look out and count all the points combined of all the other players, and that's how many points they get. So as you can see here, 1, 2, 3 plus 5, they would get 8 points. So 8, 3, 5, 0. Then you would shuffle and deal, and the next player in line is the dealer, so then it would be Claude. So heart would be the first to pick. You play 4 rounds, and then whoever has a low score at the end of those 4 rounds wins, and that's how to play Go Shoot the Moon. In the event of a tie, it's a shared victory. The deck in Rewind at 4 players is 4 suits, numbered 1 through 13. At 3 players, you're going to remove one of the non-cassette tapes, maybe like the purple. Here we have the game of Rewind set up for 4 players, so no matter the player count, you're going to shuffle and deal the deck equally to all the players, so that's 13 cards. As you can see, there's going to be 13 tricks. This board will be in the center, and it will have a marker here to keep track of what trick you're on. Players are going to be placing cubes on here depending on if they're first, second, third, or fourth to the trick in the first round, and then we're going to go rewind, we're going to go backward in the second round of the game, because there's only 2 rounds, and you're going to try to mimic those results as you go back. All the players are going to get 13 markers each. The lead player for the first trick is the left dealer. Let's say it's Ness, and they led with this 12 here in the purple suit. It is a must-follow game, and so the highest of the lead suit is going to win unless there's trump. Trump is the cassette tapes, the leftmost suit up top here, or the blue suit in here, and if there is trump in the trick, it's highest trump, but if there's not, it's highest of the lead suit. So Ness would win the trick. And then you're going to actually rank everyone on how well they did into the trick. So starting with Ness, they got first place, and then second would be up here, the green. They played a 6, the dog played a 5, and then down here, Choir Boy played the 4th. Important thing, in Rewind, you're not going to have someone take a trick. You're actually going to take your cards, put them face down in front of you to be used in the second round. And the winner of the trick would then lead again. So maybe Ness played a purple again. And again, it is a must-follow game. Coming to the dog, though, they don't have purple in the hand, so maybe they played a trump to try to win it. And then Choir Boy came to them, is must-follow. So how the ranking works, again, it is just the strongest card. So the dog over here, they played the trump, so they played the strongest. Then you would rank on-suit cards, so the 13 would then be the second strongest. Ness played the 3rd with that 9, and then finally Choir Boy with the 4. Again, players have to pay attention and not collect the trick, but just actually put the card they played back onto their pile there. Let's say the next trick, both Choir Boy and Ness were out of yellow, and they decided to trump in. Well, you would still rank them to where the highest, strongest card in trump would get first, because they did win the trick. Ness here, they played the 9 of trump, and then you would rank them going down trump. So see, Choir Boy played the next strongest card with the 8 of trump, and then you go to the lead suit. So the dog played the 13, and then Totoro played the 11. Jumping to the end of the next trick, let's say Ness led this purple 2, and then the dog and Choir Boy were out of purple. If you play off suit, it is weaker, but notice how they both played the same rank if ever there is a tie in rank, and notice how off suit are just weaker. So if the players had done this, actually, the ranking would be the green player with the strongest lead suit, then the other lead suit, then it would be the highest offsuit and then the next lowest offsuit. But if they ever played the same, you're going to see who played later. So in this case, Choir Boy played later into the trick, and they're going to decide whether they are stronger or weaker than the other tied card. So finishing this example out, tahW was the green cube, Ness was the blue, and then Choir Boy actually can choose whether they want to be third or fourth. Maybe they want to be third, making the yellow player fourth. Play like this is going to continue for all 13 tricks until this is all filled, which we'll jump ahead to now. Here we are at the end of the round 1, and now to start round 2, players are going to take the cards that they set aside, so their same hand, and now they're going to play in reverse, they're going to rewind, and they're going to try to get the same position. The lead player for the first trick in the second round is going to be the person lowest, so it's going to be the dog player up here, and they can play whatever they want, but mind you, they want to get lowest, so maybe they'll play the 1 of trump. Coming to Choir Boy, they must follow suit, and so they're pink, they want to get second, so they don't want to play these two because they're the highest, so maybe they play the 8 here. Coming to Ness, wants to get the highest. I'm looking at their hand here, they have some high trump, so I think they're going to be okay. And then finally, tahW over here wants to be in between pink and yellow, which isn't too hard, they're going to play the 5. So, as you can see, players are trying to recreate in not like a cooperative way, maybe a semi-cooperative way. They're trying to recreate how this was. And if they do it, they're going to take a cube off the board. So yellow over here, they did it. They took it off. Green, they got second. So they're going to take their cube off. Pink, yep, they got there. And then Ness got the first. The highest placing person who took their cube off is going to put it in the tiebreaker spot. If Ness didn't get first and maybe things got swapped and somehow they played the lowest and up here the dog who wanted to play the lowest actually got the strongest, they would remain on here and then the next highest person. So up here, whoever was here would put their cube in the tie-breaking spot. But as it stands, everything worked out well. So Ness will put it in there and then Ness is now going to lead the next trick. And see, they are trying to get second. And cards in the second round can just be collected or discarded as normal because we are on the final round. As another example of going in reverse, as you can see, Ness led purple, but because of the restricted nature of following suit, the positions didn't quite work out for the players. So Ness did get second, as you can see, which is exactly what they wanted, but green up here, hey, they got forced to get first, so that didn't work for them. Yellow wanted to get first, but it didn't work for them, and then Choir Boy wanted to get last, but it didn't worked out for them. So this actually was perfect for blue because they were the only one to take a cube off. And again, since they were the highest, they're going to put it into the tiebreaker box. And again, the winner of the trick, so tahW in this case, is going to lead into the next trick, the 11th trick. And as you can see, we are using the lightning bolt now because it is very helpful because cubes are going to be remaining on the board as you play. Jumping ahead to the end of the second round, as you can see, some cubes were left out there. And so now players are going to score points depending on how many cubes and where they are at on the final board here. And points are bad. So most points loses, you want to have the fewest points. And you are going to get a point per cube out here, and then an additional point for every cube you have on the top row on the first marker. So counting blue here, they had 4 cubes, which is 4 points, plus 3, because they're up on the top here for 7 total points. Whereas green only had 4 cubes, but they're all down below, so that is 4 points. Yellow and purple also scored 7, as you can see here. So the green player won. If there is a tie, you're going to look at this tiebreaker box, and whoever has the most cubes in here would actually win. So let's say green just wasn't a part of this equation because all of these players did tie at 7. You're going to see who has the most. That would be blue, and then blue would win. And if it's a tie in here, then it's shared victory. And that's how to play Rewind. Hey, welcome to Taylor's Trick-Taking Table. I am Waltzing Taylor with you here today at the end of mid-June Mask Month. We have a double feature, a double Ray feature, both games designed by Chris Ray, who is now second only to Taiki with 11 games covered on the channel. Wild. Welcome to the 10-time coverage month, Chris. And Chris is a pal, so take everything I say with a grain of salt. He even sent me these games, the ones we're covering today. The first of which is Change of Heart. So Change of Heart is a twist on the classic game Hearts. And I'm going to assume you have familiarity because I will be mentioning it a lot. So there's 4 games in here, and the hook is actually the deck for all of the 4 games. You can see on the backs of the cards whether the card is ranked 10 through ace, so one of the top 5 cards or not. So you can kind of see if hands are good or not. And you'll be doing a lot of hand drafting in this game, which is really important. The first game is just a super simple twist on hearts. It has kind of like a set collection thing for the jacks, which are good, and then the queens are kind of split, so there's no queen of spades. It's actually, every queen is worth 5 points as opposed to just the one queen of spades worth 13 points. And you can kind of see in the back there, fittingly, my family computer where I played Hearts. So this is full circle here. The other ones are a no luck version of Hearts. So you draft your hand fully, open information, full information, wild. Another one where it's kind of like Robot Rick meets Hearts. You're going to have a Tin Man player who will be collecting some tricks, and if they get a ton of hearts, hearts are good. And if they don't have a heart, the Tin Man doesn't have a heart, and hearts are bad. Very interesting. So it goes, maybe it's avoidance, maybe it's not. And then the last but not least, it's called Go Shoot the Moon, where a player each round has to shoot the moon. Fascinating concept. We're going to go to the table and show that one, but also we are covering Rewind, where this is a wild game where it's played in 2 rounds. Players will play 1 round where they'll go forward, and they're going to track whether they got first, second, third, or fourth in the round, and then they're going to take that same hand that they just used, and they're going to go backward. They're going to play backward. So if in the 13th trick they won, they're going to start again with the same hand, and on the first trick, they need to win. You're going to go backward from 13 back to 1 now. Fascinating game. Chris Ray, nothing but fascinating. So thank you so much. Come with me on this waltz, and we shall see how Chris Ray makes these 2 new wonderful additions in his trick-taking experiment. All right, see you soon.